everyone. Once again, thank you for joining. So today, let's talk about the current state of test automation, and this session might be helpful for those of you who are either considering on beginning your test automation journey in general, or maybe you do have some test automation in place and you are considering on moving to a codeless framework. And yeah, so one of those. So what's the current state of test automation right now? Well, codeless is becoming a big thing because the legacy or traditional test automation has proven to unfortunately have a lot of issues, right? Because traditionally, well, first of all, it takes a lot of time to set up the framework. And then once you've done that, which can easily take a couple of days to a couple of weeks, so the second step would be writing your tests. And well, in many cases, if you create every single test from scratch and not just copy paste them, any task can take from a few hours to a few days to write. And then comes test maintenance, and the more tests you have, the bigger of a burden test maintenance becomes. With most companies nowadays, well, especially software companies, right, the goal is to release faster and to test faster and to have small iterations for the releases, which essentially comes to continuous testing. And continuous testing is impossible without test automation in place, and the reliable test automation, what's most important. So a new solution is needed. And that's where new frameworks come into picture, and frameworks like testRigor, and especially codeless solutions, because the idea is to enable everyone on the team, not just some very specific people like automation engineers, but everyone on the team should be able to not only create tests, but also edit them, modify, add more assertions, things like that, and maintain them, of course, as well. So that's what testRigor is. You only use plain English. You specify any test from the end user perspective. Forget about gherking, just plain English. You don't need to use any locators such as XPaths, CSS selectors, all of that good stuff. Not needed, right? End user perspective. And in a few minutes, I'm gonna show you how it looks like, of course. See a few things about testRigor for those who are not really familiar. testRigor is a functional UI end-to-end testing tool. Some of the key points, aside from plain English, are the speed of test creation. So with testRigor, you can really focus on expanding your test coverage, which is the most important thing, perhaps. So instead of working on the same regression tests manually, you can quickly expand your test coverage and automate all of that. So the other thing is test maintenance. And test maintenance is drastically improved compared to pretty much any other automation framework out there. With our customers, we've measured that it's up to 200 times less time that they spend on test maintenance compared to other automation framework. That is massive. So those are some of the some of the key points. So testRigor supports web testing and also native and hybrid mobile testing. And you can also test some of the API calls as well. One of the other great benefits that it's both cross-browser and cross-platform. So you can start your tests on the web and then continue in the app. So if you want to have a whole end-to-end flow, you can perfectly test that. That's again a huge benefit, and allowing you to really expand your end-to-end test coverage from how an actual user would interact with your application. testRigor is also behavior-driven, can support behavior-driven development out of the box by its nature, again, because it's plain English. So you can just write the specification, or business side can write the specification in plain English without any even Gherkin approach, because Gherkin takes some time to adjust, right? Given, when, then, and we've noticed that many times business side is struggling to adjust to that. Right, with testRigor, you don't need to. You just specify the test case as you would talk to someone and explain it to them. Click this button, go there, proceed, verify. Very simple terms. So that's why it's very easy and seamless for the behavior-driven development. So you specify the tests, you wait for the development to proceed. Once it's ready, the test should pass right away. The same test. So it's already a specification, and it's also an automated test. 2-in-1. Isn't that amazing, right? So now let's talk a little bit about how it looks like. Right, just 1 second. I will share my screen. All right, there we go. So since testRigor is cloud hosted, first of all, you don't need to worry about the infrastructure. Everything's taken care of for you. There's also a lot of nifty features. So for example, let's look at this very simple test case. So first of all, you might notice is the detailed screenshots for every single step. More so, for each screenshot, you can tap on more details, or even tap on the screenshot itself and see what exactly is happening in your test to make sure that everything's going as you would expect. Here we can notice that there is this add to cart button that's being pressed, and the step is enter 1 and click add to cart, just like that. So the test case itself, like I said, plain English. Some of you might be wondering, so what exactly? So this looks great. This looks very clean, but what are the features that support it? And is it not too limited of some sort? Well, not at all. So the great thing is you can go to documentation, and we've done this for, so that would be very simple for anyone even starting their journey with testRigor. So you can start creating your first tests, click, verify, assert. The great thing about this that most of the commands have detailed examples for them, right? So you find the commands, let's do something, enter, right? Enter one into my checkbox, perfect. So how about an example, right? So you tap the example and you can see the detailed steps onto how exactly this command is going to work. So that makes getting familiar with testRigor a lot easier. All right. So a couple other things that I mentioned, mobile testing, web testing, API testing. There are a couple other nifty features that might be helpful, and some of our customers actually use them a lot. So for example, you can test phone calls, again, right out of the box. You can test text messages. You can test, you even have audio testing. You have the ability to also test things like emails, right? So again, the whole idea behind is for you to be able to automate any kind of end-to-end tests that you have from beginning to an end to really simulate this true user flow, how an actual user would interact with the application. Because if you don't have the whole end-to-end tests, you're only testing parts of the application. You only have integration tests, you only have some pieces of functional tests. How can you be sure that your software is actually going to behave as you would expect it to once users will start interacting with it, right? So that's why you really can feel a lot more comfortable having end-to-end tests in place. So now let's talk about what other things you have at testRigor. So testRigor supports a lot of integrations out of the box with all your favorite systems, such as issue tracking systems like Jira, test case management systems such as TestRail, a lot of CI/CD tools, heck, even monitoring tools such as PagerDuty are supported. So again, it makes it pretty seamless to integrate into your continuous pipeline and make continuous testing possible. So now let's talk about those who maybe have some test automation in place with some other frameworks, maybe Selenium or something else, it doesn't matter. So what if you are considering moving your existing tests onto testRigor? How is that going to look like? And it's actually pretty seamless as well. So the great thing that you can do, first of all, you can define your define your language that your specific language that you'd like to. So you can create those, we call them reusable rules that you'll be able to use across your entire test suite. Again, simple as that. Assign a name, and here we would suggest to use the name that is commonly used within your team. So maybe it's some sort of term, maybe some professional jargon, whatever you're using in your test cases makes it a lot easier. You assign a name, and then you create the test steps for this. You create this rule, and voila. You can use this rule anywhere throughout your test suite, make it shorter and cleaner, just like that. So that makes porting your test cases from any other framework a lot easier. All right.
All right. Does anybody have any questions for Roman? You can put them in the chat or you can put them in the Q&A. Anything that you're wondering about?
It's very clear. Perhaps great. So for those of you who do not have an account yet, and are wondering if there's some sort of trial or free version, well, there certainly is. So let me show you that. I'm gonna log out. And then so on the homepage, just tap sign up. So here you see multiple tiers. The easiest one you can start is the first one. It's free. It is open source though, keep that in mind. So all of your tests are going to be visible to everyone. So that's a great way for those who are just want to try to create their first few tests, just kind of get an idea of that, how it's going to look like. So the next tier is the one we recommend is start a trial. And here you have all of the paid features available for a couple of weeks. And you can also request a demo for our sales team to give you a very detailed walkthrough and answer any questions you might have regarding the features of the testRigor. The great thing about our models here that's why we have custom pricing here. The model is highly customizable. And what this means is it all depends on what your needs are, right? How many test cases you have, how often do you need to run them, how many parallelizations you need, what's the execution time that you have to have, right? Because some companies, they have thousands of test cases and they really have continuous testing, which requires them to see results in under an hour. Well, easy, we can accommodate that, no problem. So again, it all depends on what your company's needs are. All right, do we have any questions?
So, Roman, how would you suggest somebody get started if they have, like, I think there's two cases, one where they don't have existing testing in place, or if they also have existing tests, what kind of project would be good to try testRigor on?
I would say almost any project that would be great related to if you have software, and again, you have either mobile apps, you have websites, both, right? testRigor would be a great option for any functional UI end-to-end tests, any of that. And yeah, we highly advise you to start a trial, explore it through yourself, go through documentation. It's pretty straightforward. So you'll see how seamless it is, how less time you're going to spend creating those test cases. testRigor, the whole goal behind the whole idea, why people love it so much, is it saves you a lot of time, both on test creation and, very importantly, test maintenance. So you spend less time thinking about how your tests work. Instead, you spend most time making sure that you have this test coverage that you need, that it's robust, because tests are very robust with testRigor, very stable. So you really can allocate your resources towards other more important things than worrying about maintaining tests every single day, and spending half of the day or maybe even a whole day towards test maintenance.
And what about, so you've talked about end-to-end testing, what about regression testing, load testing, some of those use cases?
So regression tests or smoke tests would be like if you don't have any test automation, then those would be the first to start, probably, because that's where you're going to see the biggest benefits. Regression tests or smoke tests, well, they need to be run often. When they done manually, it's a huge drag for the whole team. It's very time consuming. It's also very tedious because those are essentially the same tests every single time. So automating them is a huge relief for the whole team, and instead they can focus on maybe testing new features or working on exploratory testing or expanding the coverage, right? So this is a lot more efficient than just testing the same test cases over and over again. And then it's good that you mentioned load testing, because that's actually something that we're actively working on, and we're going to roll out load testing very soon as well.
Okay. Last call for questions. Does anybody have any questions you'd like to ask Roman?
I would like to add some updates. So load testing is available for beta in the beta version. So if you'd like to use the earlier version, it's not publicly available yet, then you can contact us and let us know.
All right. Well, thank you, Artem, and thank you, Roman. Lots of really good information. And I think that we'll wrap it up today. Our next session in 2 weeks is on visual validation. So we hold these every other week on Wednesday at this time. So thank you for joining us today. Please ask questions. If you have any questions, you can email us at sales@testrigor.com, and we're happy to answer them. Thank you, everyone, for joining.